G'day and welcome to the Hunters Campfire Podcast. My name's Mark and along with good mate Ian, we're here to help with all things hunting. If you're looking to start but don't know where to begin, you want to make the most of your next trip away or even plan that hunt of a lifetime, we've got something for you. You'll find our podcasts on Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon and plenty of others. And if you want more, head over to our YouTube channel, The Hunters Campfire, where we have plenty of how-to and hunting videos along with the full video production of every podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and good hunting.
Cool. Oh well, it's good to have you on anyway, and this year we certainly appreciated the email, and we thought if we could give you the opportunity to get as much tips and tricks before you head to Nundle and Tugelo, then we're only happy to help. I was going to drive some stuff with maps, but John, I'm going to get you to do it now, mate. I'm down to one screen, and it'll be a little bit hard. But are you heading off on your own this year?
Yeah, I was going to do a solo.
Okay.
You're a brave man for a beginner.
I think that the important learning here is write us a nice email and you'll get stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
We're pretty shallow, really. We respond well to compliments. So yeah. So you're off to Nundle. How long are you there for?
I'm there for a couple of nights.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to head out there probably reach there on Friday afternoon or the evening.
Mm-hmm.
Then my main hunting time will be Saturday and half of Sunday.
Oh, okay.
Return Sunday night. That's my plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think all the roads are okay on the New England and stuff like that. It's further west that you're going to have the problems.
Nundle received another 100 mil last night, so it's certainly wet. But the main road through it, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll just have to be careful about where you go from there.
Yeah.
I don't know too many people that have frequented Nundle numerous times and haven't come unstuck at some point, myself included. I've come off the road once or twice. Going uphill, mind you, I slipped off the road.
Yeah. It's probably easier to come in through the north with the if it's going to be, ordinary road conditions. So coming in through Walker and that way.
Walker, yeah.
And then that's probably last time we came through there, the very last bit of that road on before you turn on to Topdale. So when you turn off the bitumen onto the first bit of dirt, that was probably the messiest bit, but it was flat. But it had big holes, but it was flat. Once you actually got onto the Forest Way, because they run trucks on it so often, it's in a pretty good nick.
Yep.
That's probably one of the most important things to remember. It's a working forest.
Yep.
So you will encounter vehicles if they're working. And they run with a great deal of sense of right of way.
Yeah, I've been there about 4
Oh, okay.
months.
You have
Okay. And I just been there last month. So yeah, I'm pretty much aware of the road system, especially around Tugelo.
Yeah.
I found Nundle to be too challenging for me in terms of the hike because it's very terrain is kind of challenging. I saw one of your videos on when you hunted with your son, and I noted that it's and you mentioned that it's a bit easier hike.
Yeah, well, Tugelo can be tough, but we picked. I specifically picked easier parts of Tugelo because I had my boy with me. And you can do the same in Nundle. I mean, honestly, if you can walk the tracks on Nundle, and there's a good chance that you will have success. Obviously, the harder you hunt, the better your chances. But there is Tugelo. We just found the way I hunted Tugelo with my son is as soon as we entered the forest, the first track we came to was a left-hand track. We turned down it.
Yep.
It was pretty hard pack dirt and rock, so there was no issue, and it was raining. When there was no issue with tracks or anything like that. And the first reasonable place to pull over, we just pulled over and we just started walking. And literally the deer are standing on the track for us, and you might luck a big buck, but I expect that you'll see deer doing that. So yeah, you can do that. In fact, the track that we were on in Tugalo led to a very, very interesting point where it bordered private land, and Tim actually went and sat on that for a while, and that looked really, really interesting if you for a place to sit down. Now, for you probably won't have that opportunity because you won't have that time, but it was really quite interesting. There was a real opportunity to sit there, and you can see it there on that. So we basically came in that main track in.
Yep.
And there, where it's got that red line to the to your left, if you're heading from north to south, we just went along there and we just found a place. See how there's like a little balloon loop dotted off the red? Yep. We just pulled up almost at that creek where that balloon loop starts on the red. And we just walked around there. Sometimes we walked through the scrub, sometimes we followed the track, but we just stuck to that area. And later on, with Tim, we went right up to where it hits the private again. And you can see there's it says 9, and you can see there's a track that runs up that to the boundary line. Tim went up there because there's lots of dams, as you can see, and we just went up there and checked that out. That whole area is very interesting. It's one of those areas where you've got very close to the fringe country for the private land, so it was well worth checking out. And as I said, you can see the contours are very, very mild there, so it's pretty easy country to work. And if you're worried about navigation, it's also probably a really good place to go because it's you wouldn't get too messed up there.
Yeah.
If you keep walking, you'll hit a boundary line and you'll be able to track back from it.
Is that where you've been before, mate? You seem familiar with that area?
Yeah, I've been to this area just once, and I found a good camp spot there. Someone used it before. It was somewhere close to that. You see that cross thing over the right where your mouse cursor is?
Yeah, that's a mine. That would be, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so it's somewhere close to there. I found a camp spot there. I didn't camp there. I camped somewhere else, but I found it. But I walked the whole area. So what I usually do, and that's the purpose that I wanted to talk to you guys was, what I usually do is just I park somewhere, and I usually don't walk on the roads. I assume that obviously the deer are not going to hang around the road because that's where most of the activity is, the human activity is. So obviously they're going to be hanging around somewhere deep in the forest. But I just randomly walk. So I always have these questions, like I see all these contours and these creeks. So I always ask myself, do I need to walk along the creek? What do they eat? What time do I, if I'm walking along the creeks, what time do I walk? Is it best in the morning? What time do they actually hang around in those creeks, and what time of this? So all these questions come to my mind, and some sort of guidance on basically their movement patterns. Basically, what time do they move around between this private farmland, where they might eat, and what times do they hang around in the forest? They just wanted to get some basic idea about that. Okay. Because right now I'm just walking in, and I do find the odd mark, their footprints here and there, and some scat here and there, but not really able to join the dots, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I mean, state forest hunting is not easy. You're looking for an area, and this is probably why Mark's focused on this area here, that the deer are going to go to improve pasture during the night. Right, so they're largely nocturnal because of the pressure that's on them. they're going to come out of the safe haven of the forestry and bounce over those fence onto the improved pasture, and they're going to eat there all night, and then they're going to bounce back again into the forestry in the morning. And you might pick them up moving from one side to the other in the early light of the morning and the late light of the evening, the last little bit. That's the general rule. But in saying that, I've let rounds off at deer at 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning, early after lunch. But often those chance encounters are back in the forestry where they have stood up because they've heard me and they're looking for me, and you see them silhouetted in the forestry. I don't tend to find groups of deer feeding in the middle of the day, standing up, just milling around like they do in the late light. If there's anything else you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, that's all exactly correct in what Ian was saying there about the fact that they, in a way, they're just like us. So they want to expend the less amount of energy to get the most amount of energy in. So if there's improved pasture or there's forest pick, they're going to go for the ice cream, you know. So they're going to go for the good stuff. So they're going to, if there's pastoral land around and they're able to access it, they're going to go for the pastoral land. Conversely, they want to be somewhere where when they're not eating, that they feel, you know, there's a level of safety and security, then obviously a pastoral paddock doesn't provide that. This forest provides that. So from an approach point of view, and you know, you were saying about when's the right time of day and should I follow the creeks. One of the things I'd say to you is that there's probably an answer to that, but that won't fit into your hunting. Okay, so you're going. The way I'd like to answer this question is, you've told me you're going to basically be there for a day and a half, and you're going to hunt all day Saturday. Okay, so how would I use that time more effectively or most effectively? As you said, I'd find somewhere to pull up in my vehicle, or if I was camping over there, and I would actually start on the track. The reason I'd start on the track is I'd start to look for game sign. And the reason for that is it's easier to see prints on a track than it is in the forest, okay? So I would put some of the basics into play. One is I'd check which way the wind's blowing. So I'm walking into the wind, okay? Walking into the wind. 2, I'd just move along and start to scan for game sign. So that game sign's either going to be, you know, prints or scat. Okay. When I find that, I try to make some kind of judgment call on which way is the game going, how fresh it is. So or is it, for instance, it might be old, but it's heavy traffic. So this might be a very well used track. And where's it heading? If I look at it, is it heading, you know, towards a pasture or not? Again, with the wind, I'd use the wind in terms of determine which direction I turn, but I'd turn into the wind and start following that track, and then start looking for more information and continuing to put together a picture. It's almost impossible for me to say that the deer will be on the water at 11 o'clock or 3 o'clock or something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow a simple process of elimination based on gathering information. So I'm going to kind of go, I don't know anything except for which way the wind's blowing. The wind's blowing this way, I'm moving into that. Second thing is, okay, I found game sign. What's the game sign telling me? It tells me it's relatively fresh. It tells me it's very, very old. Okay, so I keep looking. Okay, this game sign is a bit fresher. Okay, let's follow the game sign with the wind and just keep building the picture. And for yourself, if you were hunting in that area, you know, that there's, you know, each one of those squares is a kilometre. So you got, you know, a goodly chunk of land there that you can explore for a half a day, not be too far away from the track, so too far away from your vehicle. If you get something, and there's a lot of interesting, you know, creek lines and like that. Again, it's hard to say should you go down those creek lines because, you know, we don't know how overgrown they are in particular or what it is. But again, that's a bit of information. If I come to something and it's, you know, a wall of blackberry, I'm just going to not go through it. I'm going to try and walk around it and find a way around it. So I'm just going to keep in that short period of time that I've got hunting, I'm just going to keep trying to find more data, more information about the deer or the pigs or whatever it is, and keep looking. I'm a firm believer that just keep moving, keep looking, keep assessing information. Once you get to know an area, you might go, okay, this is a great place for me to hold up because there's lots of deer activity, or, you know, something like that. But for you, going to an area that you may have only been once or twice before, your best chance is to get on your feet, you know, walk it, you know, use the wind to your advantage, keep your eyes open, move slowly, assess as much information you can, and be ready for the fact that you would probably are likely to bump something.
Yeah, and don't cover the same ground twice. Don't go back in the morning, because all of the scent that you've laid up is not going to be washed out. Those deer aren't going to be too interested you after that.
If you were hunting that block we can see there, you might say, okay, in the morning I'm going to hunt one side, or the afternoon I'm going to hunt the other side. And again, let the wind tell you what to do. You know, let the wind tell you what to do.
I've never really that wind was on my last things to consider. I just randomly used to walk. Yeah, that is one.
Yeah, if you're not using the wind like Mark's talking about, you've limited your chances by 95%.
That's right.
Yeah,
if not higher.
Yeah. I mean, I've walked into animals in the wrong place. Like, I've had wind, you know, on my back. I've had, you know, everything was wrong, but deer have stood up. They've stood up because they've smelt me, but they're usually at that point, they've got the jump on me. And even if I do see them, I can smile as they run off. You got to have that wind right. Yeah. They are cagey in this forest because they get pressure. So every little bit you need to consider.
That's it. And that's the thing, you know, this time of year, you're going to see deer, you know, in where they are in their development. So it's going to be different from, say, for instance, if you were down there in a rut. So they're going to be, you know, they're going to be in smaller groups. You're more than likely to see, I would assume that you're likely to see, you know, does and yearlings. You might see what.
Very close to young fawns.
Very close.
Yeah, very close.
You might get the first ones down. Yeah, but they'll be heavily pregnant.
Yeah, they'll be very close to that stage, so you'll see that. So they won't be that active. They won't be
Any
that
bucks
active.
are going to be in velvet as well.
And you probably won't see them hanging around. You might bump them separately. You know, what you're doing is you, in this kind of situation, since you don't really know a lot about where you're going, is you're using your feet to stimulate game movement, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so flushing.
Yeah, you're driving it. You know, it's like a self-drive type thing. That's what you're doing, and that's what I find is the most productive way to hunt these kind of conditions, because I just don't know them, so I can't say, oh, go here, do this, do that.
Yeah. So I'll give you another spot, and I'll explain how I work this spot in a similar way to what Mark has. John, if you can move to the east.
Yep. How far do you want to
go? Keep going. Just zoom out a bit for me.
You can ask for control in Teams. So
I do that all the time, but I can't see it here.
Yeah,
for some reason I can't see
well.
Request control.
If you go to more, if you click on more, no, it's not there.
It's not there, mate. No.
I've got it, but it's not highlighted.
Doesn't matter, mate. Doesn't matter. So see the farmland right in the center, north of the rest. Okay. So I hunt this spot quite a lot. Zoom in on that a couple of clicks, Jono. Okay. Go in one more. Go in one more. Okay, now center it for me, the farm. Okay, that'll do for the minute. And I just drop it down one little bit. Yeah. No, sorry, I meant up then. Up, stop. Yep. Okay. See, too far. See where the road comes in to the far left-hand side, on the far left-hand side, and it hits the green. Do you recognize this area?
Yeah, I've been to the. I've just driven through this road all the way down to that property, and if you just scroll down a bit, yeah, and I just do you see that gate gate mark, gate, whatever you call that thing, that two triangles thing on the
it's
right
right
hand
on
side?
the right on
Yeah,
the
so
on the on
yeah,
the bottom.
it's
So
very
that's
thick
going to be the
country. Yeah,
southwest country.
I walked there for a bit, and it was very thick country there. So I just
Okay, let me explain a couple of things here. So if you
yeah.
go back up the road to where the exclusion zone meets the hunting
Yep.
zone,
Yep.
right on the
Yep.
far left hand side there.
Yep.
When you come up and over a hill, and then you hit that track that comes off the main road. See that track there next to capped or dump trail?
Yep.
Okay, so as you come over the hill, that road runs through open grazing country.
Yep.
But it is hunting land.
Oh yes.
As you're driving down the road, so it'll be on your left as you're driving down the road. The left hand side, the left hand side is open grazing country. The right hand side is farmland. I always, without a doubt, see deer in the early morning crossing from the farmland across the road through that open grazing country and into the forest. I always see them there. Now you can park, and the great thing about this is you can park your car back in the purple exclusion area because it's on another side of a ridge.
Yeah.
And you can creep up over that. Right, wind dependent, of course, but even with wind going the wrong way, because you've got to get up and over the top of a ridge, that wind is going to push up before it drops down. So you've got a little bit of a chance to scalp that early. Now, when you go, if you take that left-hand road that goes to, it says Captain and Dump Trail, that goes around the top of this open grazing, and you've got an elevated point where you can shoot south into that area for about 400 meters of open grazing country. You see them come in there in the morning and you see them come out in the afternoon. Mark, did you want to say something?
Well, Nazir, that video that I put together of hunting for my son, and the day where I'm walking, I say the sun's come up, that I am there.
Yeah.
We're in that paddock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
When I say something like, oh, we can feel the temperature dropping, I am literally walking up to our vehicles, which are parked right where that exclusion in that road. That's it. So it is an open. So you can, if the wind is right, you could literally kind of crawl up in there in your vehicle, because as Ian says, you kind of come around a corner. You could park. You could walk in. If you got there in the right time, you do have you have two benefits. One is you've got a good couple of ovals of flat ground in front of you that is grassy but quite easy to see into. It's fringed by trees, so the deer will be moving that cover. And if they are over in the improved pasture, which is the exclusion zone on the other side of the road, you'll be able to see them in there as well. So if they're about, you'll be able to see them, and you'll be able to find a pretty comfortable shooting position. And if you want to explore, you basically walk those tracks in, and there's some really nice country.
Really nice country
in there. The track is high. It's kind of like about 3/4 up the hill, so you've got looking up, which is always a really good thing to do when you're deer hunting. Don't look just down, look up, because often you'll see deer looking down on you. And it borders some national park, I think.
Yep, it does.
So, and you can look down, and it's quite a nice gully system, and then it gets into it. It kind of slowly closes up, and then you get into really heavy, dark timber. Heavy tree cover. Still plenty vision below it, but the light really drops down. It gets into some heavy timber in there. So. There's a shot where we're all in one of the videos. We're all walking along the road, and I'm saying we're going for like a Sunday stroll or something. We are literally walking along those tracks there into that heavy stuff. Yeah,
I'm going to dispel another myth for you, and that is staying away from the tracks is going to find more deer. Walk the tracks, buddy. Those the deer aren't scared of the tracks.
No.
The deer are used to forestry workers on those tracks, and walking tracks is usually the best way to go, because people push those tracks down areas that cars can access, which means they're less steep. Yes, you'll find some steep stuff, but they've gone the natural way down. tracks are quieter to walk on. If you go off the track and try and push through the scrub, you're just going to scare everything off.
Yeah.
Hit those tracks. Yeah. Now, of course, find game trails and explore off the track. But if you're trying to cover some ground and look up, we've seen loads of deer from tracks. Loads of deer.
Again, the animal, for an animal, it's the easier way for them to travel.
It's part of resistance,
That's right. And for you, it's a lot easier to spot game trail on a track than it is in the middle of the scrub. You'll literally see, you'll see the traffic line that they're following. And you'll also see, more importantly, or just as importantly, the traffic line where they're cutting tracks. So they're kind of coming up or down, they cut a track and they go, oh, okay, so they're moving that way. Very, very handy thing to do is walk the tracks in state forests, especially, again, when you're starting. It's a great way to cover ground and to see things and get deer. So don't disregard it. And again, when we're talking about traffic, remember, it might be 3 vehicles a day. So it's not a lot of traffic, So.
So great spot there. Go and explore that area. I highly recommend it. I've sent quite a few people there, and they always report back they've seen animals. If you follow that track down along the southern boundary of the farmland, right, Jono, you're following me all the way to the right-hand southern corner. That point there, right? Stop there on that corner. If you park up there and walk up old mate's fence, heading north, right? About halfway, you'll see a gully. You'll see a saddle there. That's where Jono's mouse is. That's a natural saddle. Okay, it's a beautiful, lush piece of ground that has got log. It's got log deadfall pushed up against the fence. So you've got some excellent cover. Just on the other side, so basically at the point where Jono's got his arrow, that is where the deer jump the fence. They jump that fence all the time, right? So if you then go to the creek to the right, so it goes down the valley into the creek. There's a creek just there, right? You see that creek? Now, just up the other side, you'll see a spur that parallels the creek. Can you see that, Jono? Up and down that spur line there. That's where mark that spot is where you'll go back in the rut. And if you find me there, you can leave. But if I'm not there, you're welcome to do it. 4 years in a row, I've found a buck in there. He works that. That's where his scrapes are. But he works that area with a creek either side of it. And the girls go up that gully and bounce into that improved pasture. Again, great ambush spot. You'll see them in the low light, the beginning of the day and the end of the day, going into there. Yeah.
So that's the kind of place that if you've been out for the day and you think about what to do for the afternoon, think about the wind. You want to get the wind right, but if the wind is right, that'd be a great place to go explore for an afternoon run, or if you're a real early bird, go for a morning run. But that's the kind of place I would break. If you're hunting, basically all Saturday and a half Sunday, the way I'd approach that is I'd try and find 3 places. And kind of do, Saturday morning till lunch, get back to camp. If you haven't been successful, if you've been successful, everything changes. Get back in, have a rest, have a feed. Okay, Saturday afternoon, which way is the wind blowing? What's going on? And then do something different on a Sunday morning. So maybe get up real early Sunday morning, get in there and look at that kind of place for an ambush, or the one further up above it, where they have that like corporal, the link trail and that stuff like that. So that's kind of how I'd approach that. I'd break it up into three hunts, if you will, 3 half-day hunts.
So go and camp there somewhere. Don't go to Ponderosa. You're 40 minutes away. Go camp somewhere central here, so that you've got a small amount of driving.
The first time I went to this forest, like I did, I drove the whole forest and marked some potential camp spots. So there is one camp spot in this location that I've marked up as well. There. So
but I mean, you going in for the time you're going in, basically, I'd be thinking, if I'm driving along that road and there's a clearing there, I'd think maybe this will do me for the night type thing like that. You're limited on time, so as Ian said, the closer you can get to the action, and the easier it is for you to set up is be good.
in terms of the time, yeah, I did. This was something that I had in mind because I thought there's no point staying back more. But ideally, how would you, how much time would you think is ideal? Like if 1.5, like from what you were saying, 1.5 days seems to be kind of tight, right?
Every
So-
day you can get, my friend. You want
That's
to
it.
stay there, mate. My
Yeah.
trips are a week long. I go for a week.
Wow.
I don't travel
Yeah.
all the way there for 2 days. I've done it once. I took a
Yeah.
4-day weekend. That's the shortest I've ever done.
Wow.
But normally, I'll do an annual trip there or two trips in the year, and I'll be there for a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I try and hunt as long as I can, but I have also hunted. I have left Brisbane to get to Severn for first light, hunted till last light, and drove back home.
Mm.
I've
Yeah.
done that, and I was successful. But I can't shoot them at my back door. I've got to go looking for them. So it's about when you're on the time frame that you're on. We're talking about efficiency here. So I'd think about places like this. So these two, and when we talked about the other one with Tugalo, again, when you're there, the decision that is going to be the most important decision is what's the wind doing where I'm at. Okay. So there's no use going, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and you get there and the wind's wrong. But it also means that, okay, I might be going 3, 2, 1 or something like that. But you want to work with the wind. So think about a few different places you can go that are within close range of each other and go for it. I mean, that whole forest holds deer. So they're there. You've just got to kind of have a bit of an approach. But if you kind of said, I'll take the top part on the first morning and I'll camp up there. That's a nice way of doing it.
Yeah.
No, totally makes sense.
I think just that map that we're looking at now, I don't think you can drive from there to the other one without having to go up though. I don't think there's a joint road.
No, you've got to go back.
But
up
that's
around.
not a bad.
Go
It's not a
from the
bad
other
road
way.
by any means. You've got to go back up. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
from
it.
here, Ruby's Knob Road. We have
That's
to
it.
take that.
Yeah, it's a big intersection on the main road.
That's
Yeah.
it.
I think that's a great spot in there. I've
So
taken
where-
quite a few people in, and they've been quite successful. So
I can tell you where I have spotted a few deers in that. If you just scroll to the right, please, and up where we enter from the Ruby's Knob Road right into the right there. So you see that. So what I did once, so taking that Ruby's, so where that road kind of kinks into that national park and then comes back into the green area where it's written Ruby's Knob. So there's this right, there's a road that goes to the left, close to on the border of that national park.
Nasir, that's actually the point that I was describing earlier. I just got the wrong spot on the map.
All right. So
remember when I was saying that point down there, I didn't realize that I couldn't see this bit on the map. That is actually the point we were describing earlier.
All right. I thought you were talking about the one, if you scroll down, that's next to the private land.
Yeah, that is next to private land. Up the top there, go back up. See where it comes. It goes from White to hunting area next to Ruby's Knob Road. The word just there where that point there. When Jono's got his cursor, can you see there? That's the point I was describing earlier, where you come over the hill and you've got all of that farmland there on the left hand, on the right hand side. Yeah, that was my description. I was in the wrong spot.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at the one on the bottom right next to that exclusion zone. That there's a Captain Dump. CPT dump 303.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's it.
I've camped there, and there's definitely at the time we camped down there as a pre-rut trip. There were nice bucks down in the creek, down from that point, and some pretty amazing waterfalls. But it is steep, very steep country.
Yeah, you'll see the contours really pick up as you go towards the right. But again, that pasture land over there, the white, is very good pasture land too when
Yep.
we were down there. So that whole area is well worth the exploration.
Yeah, it means all the deers, like I've spotted about 10, 12 deers in a day.
Yep.
But all when they were running, I couldn't find anything.
You've got to
that is
stop. You've
standing.
got to stop the running. All right. The key to all of this is probably going to be noise and wind. It's something you need to be
Wind,
careful of. And
definitely wind.
like if you've got deer on the run and you pull your car up and they know that you've pulled the car up and now they're skittish of cars, that spot's done for your trip. You need to go and find some more deer somewhere else. But if you can sneak up over that and catch them when they're not running, then obviously you've given yourself the chance.
I know that's definitely quite helpful. But yeah, it means in terms of so first light, that's the first rule, right? First light, you're there in the forest. So I always struggle to decide whether should I start from the bottom of the hill or the gully or whatever, or from the top, or should I start from the creek line? Like that's always been where do I, first thing in the morning, where do I start? Like we have now, you just showed me all these different good potential spots. So is it like you just go there just before the first light, and just sit there until it turns, until you get some light, or you start from somewhere, in terms of on the road or something?
Yeah, so I'm always trying to find a place that I know that deer are likely to be, and then I try and be there an hour to half an hour before there's any light whatsoever, and I sit patiently and wait. If nothing happens in that area on first light, then I'll start to move. Yeah, I don't move around in that pre-light time.
So that's
it's
a
the same
different style of hunting, right? Like if you're sitting and waiting, so how do you decide this is the place where I should sit and wait for the deer? Or
prevailing wind, high elevation, so that you can see something. In the morning, you're going to have, you'll get used to understanding thermals and currents. It's not just wind direction, but in the morning, if you think about fog settles in the morning, right?
Yep.
So as the dawn rolls in, fog settles. That means your center's rolling down. And as soon as the heat hits that, your scent's going back up again. So you need to be mindful of where your scent's going to go as the dawn rolls in, and then the day warms up, is what your thermals are going to do. So all of those things are part of what you piece together as you get better at this. But to start with, a high elevated point where your wind is not blowing in their direction is going to give you a better chance.
Right.
I'm not a still hunter, but the first thing I do in the day is find that optimum spot. And, if you're successful at that point, then you've got work in front of you. If you're not, then it's time to go walking. Those animals will continue to feed for a while before they bed down, but you don't have a heap of time. Then you're bumping them. Yep.
Makes sense.
And I agree. I'd always rather start high than low. There's a very good chance that you'll end up low, but I want to start high. And if I decided to hunt that area that we're looking right down there, basically center top of screen, just below where it says Ruby's Knob, I was going to hunt that area. I'd want to understand which way the wind was before I even went that way. Think about what was happening the day before and stuff like that. But when I got there, I'd try and get there before first light. I'd want to get my gear at camp ready in the car if I'm driving there, or if I was leaving my vehicle there. So when I get out of the car, I'm getting out, and I'm not, opening doors and boots and stuff like that. I'm grabbing my gear, and I'm just going to sit quietly and listen. One, because technically, it's still dark and I can't move around. But as soon as that light comes up, I'm going to grab my binos the best I can. I'm going to start looking. I'm going to start looking for movement. I'm going to start scanning the area, and I'm going to start looking for movement. I'm going to start looking for, that odd blurry shape moving across a paddock. I'm going to try and lock onto that through the binos. If I can't do that, I can't see anything moving. I'm going to move, and if so after a period of time, I can't see anything, I'm going to move a little bit into the wind. And again, hopefully I'll be able to start using my binos, because I might just be off the area that they're at. I'm going to keep doing that until I kind of go, okay, they're not here at where I am. So then I'm going to go start moving in and seeing if I can find them. So it's going to be like a series of small rolling steps. They're going to keep getting along bigger and bigger, depending on what kind of, what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing and so on. So I'm just going to keep grabbing bits of information I can and start making more and more informed decisions. That's what it's really about. It's about, you want to try and make as the most informed decision as you can. So what you're doing is you're starting from very little information. So you just want to, you're trying to find bits of information and to give yourself a picture of what's happening.
Makes sense. Sounds good.
The last thing that I'll give you is
Yeah.
once the morning is rolled on and you're walking the tracks, I tend to find that the fallow deer, which is what you find predominantly in this area, they're going to be in the native eucalypt, and they're going to be close to a creek.
Yep.
Right. So they hang out, within, you'll probably find game trails 50 to 100 meters off a creek that contour the creek line or follow the creek line, they parallel it. That's typically the line where I find fallow bed down. So they can go and get a drink, they can come back up and have a feed. And they don't go necessarily too far from where they want to be tonight, but, in the nighttime, they don't want to move too far, especially when they're heavily pregnant. But that's just my tips. Go and find those gullies. And when you're in forestry area that's got a lot of pine, you'll notice that the creek lines are all still the native eucalypt country. The pines, I don't think the forestry people are allowed to plant too close to the rivers in case the seeds drop in the waterways and travel, things like that. So, yeah, that's sort of what I look for.
All right, I'll keep that in mind.
And look, that's a really good point. And the idea of they're in the native timber, and look, I literally have put that. Ian said that to me once, and I literally put it in practice. And where I came into a paddock, and it had this horrible weed overgrown stuff, and it was like nearly as tall as me. And I went, nothing's going to be in this. So I stopped and went, there's timber up there, and I moved towards the timber, and sure enough, 10 minutes later, deer are there. So they don't want to be in that stuff either. It was that time of the day where they wanted to be within the timber, went into the timber. So that's it.
Yeah. The pine needles suppress all of the undergrowth, so there's no easy green pick for them to get to.
No, dead under those.
Yeah, can be. If you've got more open, maybe young pines, that changes the story a little bit. But just use that as a guideline. And if the sun can't get in and it can't grow, green stuff underneath it, you're not going to find animals bed down there. I look at the sheep in the paddock at home. They lie down during the day and they eat a circle around where they're lying. Like they don't want to have to get up and move around. The deer are the same. They do the same thing.
Right. So there are some pine forests that I noted in Nundle. So are those areas worth looking around? When you go towards Ponderosa, on the right hand side, there's a huge pine area that I always wanted to go there. But
there's pine areas all through these parks, mate. That's what they are. What you'll find heavy game trails that go off the road through the pines and end up in the eucalypt. They'll traverse it. Someone told me the other thing that I believe is that the reds prefer the pines over the eucalypt. That's just the theory that I run with. And also when there's heavy weather, the pine is a very well insulated area for any animal to go in and shelter from weather. So yes, pines are absolutely. You'll find pigs in there. The pigs love it because it's moist. They can bloody dig stuff up. There's mushrooms and all sorts of stuff in there for them to eat. So you'll bump stuff in there. But I just find that if you're going to bump something that's bedded down for the day, my opinion is it's going to be in the eucalypt.
And if there is pine and you know that transition point between the pine and the eucalypt or the native timber is also very, very interesting country to explore, because it gives them kind of the both. You know, they don't have to move too far, because when you do go into that, especially if it's old pine, you know, it's planted in the 70s or before, it's dense. It's the temperature is significantly different. You know, there's less light in there, so you could see that if anything wanted to bed up somewhere where out of the weather, that would be a really good place to bed up. So, and I mean, I've shot plenty of pigs in the pine at Nundle. So yeah, there's game in there as well. It's just a different type of game.
Interesting. There's a lot of information for me to go with.
And that being the case, so just pick a few spots. Okay, so you've got the options with the wind. So you know, so depending on what time of day you get there, you know, when you're ready to move, if you can't immediately see something, move a little bit, gather a bit more information, move a little bit, gather more information. And when you find a game trail, so if it's not playing, you know, it's not playing out for you at all, when you find prints or you know, scat, say, okay, I'm going to start exploring this, and just explore, but always try and keep right with the wind.
Yep.
Right.
Because the deer is going to use multiple senses to determine if you're worth getting up and running away from or not. So they might hear you, but if they don't see you, they'll be alert, but they might not be moving. So they're going to pull that. Like us, they're going to pull information together.
There's a lot of stuff that moves around the bush that's not.
That's right. There's a lot of
wallabies
trees
and
falling and wallabies, and in fact, the first buck I shot in Nundle, I followed a wallaby onto him. That big noisy thing was crashing through the scrub. It was perfect cover, you know, and the deer just thought, oh, it's just something moving. So they're going to pull that information together. So yeah, so just always try and be right with the wind. It's probably the rule number one of successful deer hunting. And look, I've shot deer that shouldn't been there in the wrong place, wrong time, everything. That happens. You only get that by getting out there and doing it. But generally, get right with the wind.
Yeah, creeks are another good one. Creeks make noise; they mask your sound, and the wind usually follows a creek one way or another.
Yeah.
So if you hit a creek and you've got the draft coming down with the water, then go the other way. Just follow the creek up there, masks your noise. It's the right place. Animals come down to drink there. You'll find game trails and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, there's another good tip.
But try and stay out of the creek, so give yourself the opportunity that you can see it. Don't kind of get in it. That's one I've seen people make that mistake. You get in it and then it becomes an issue about navigation and movement rather than hunting. You don't want to turn this into an arduous, you know, you don't want to spend more energy trying to figure out how to get through something than it is hunting.
No, that's great information. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. I think I have enough to go and at least give it a shot.
Oh, mate, you've got a lucky hat. You'll be sweet.
That's right. And when you come back, we're going to get you back here and you're going to give us a debrief.
All right. Yes, sure. We'd love to do that. Definitely.
Right. Good stuff.
Definitely.
All right, mate, go and do your family thing. I see your daughter. Was it your daughter running around behind you a minute ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. All good, man. All right. Well, if there's anything else testing out, you know how to find us. So happy to help.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much,
Cool.
Mark.
Good luck, mate.
Ian, Jono. Thank you very much.
Good luck,
Thank
mate.
you for your time.
Good luck, mate.
Bye.
See ya.
Yeah.